Events have been held in this building before and since, but none so purposeful as its October 3rd dedication, with performances from the Hillsdale College Choir, backed by a grand organ and directed by Music Department Chair James Holloman. The college took time during the celebration of its 175th anniversary to dedicate its newest building, Christ Chapel. In keeping with the college's tradition of looking to American history and its roots, the 27,000-square-foot building is modeled after St. Martin in the Field, the English church that was also the inspiration for Philadelphia's Christ Church, for which the new chapel is named. It's directly behind Central Hall on the campus's main block, but you won't see it from College Street, and that's by intent. President Larry Arnn told those gathered at the dedication ceremony that the chapel building has 2 towers instead of 1 because a single tower would have been taller than the Central Hall dome. He says Hillsdale College has always had a chapel, but it seemed to have been an afterthought, a room set aside for the purpose rather than a purpose-built structure. The idea for a specific building had been in the college's plans for almost 20 years, but it wasn't until a donor noticed the lack of one and wanted to help make the plans a reality. Arnn noted that nobody in living memory has done that.
We have cause to think that this is the largest classical chapel built in 70 years. It's hard to prove a negative, but the one we can find is the Mars Chapel at Boston University, which was begun in 1920 and finished in 1950. 70 years. It's a classical building. It's like what the Greeks did. A blessing to all of us. We study that here, of course.
One of the first things people will notice when walking into the hall is that the balcony sits rather high above the ground floor, and an amused Arnn still isn't quite sure it's well enough protected.
That caused me to look up, and it leads me to remind you kids sitting on the front row, don't fall off. Duncan and I are having an argument about whether those rails are too low. So far, he wins. Even those kids up there, I do hope they don't fall off, but if they do, we can get more.
Arnn introduced the guest speaker as a man who embodies the character, faith, learning, and dedication to freedom that the college stands for, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Thomas spoke about the purpose of both chapels in general and Christ Chapel specifically.
The primary purpose of a chapel is to provide a place where man can enter the presence of God. It provides a sanctuary in which man can withdraw from the chaos of our world and seek a sacred stillness. It is difficult to overstate the significance of the role that this particular chapel will play in the life of Hillsdale College. By constructing this chapel, the college upholds the continued importance of its Christian roots, even as it respects the rights of each person to worship God according to the dictates of his own conscience.
Thomas also noted the purposeful grandeur of the chapel's architecture.
Christ Chapel is a culmination of years of generosity, planning, and hard work. And the end result is at once stunning and glorious. It truly illustrates how architectural design can reflect the character of God and evoke a sense of reverence for His majesty.
The justice mostly stayed away from political themes, preferring to relate his impressions of the building and the college's purpose to his own faith and life experiences. But when he did touch on the state of the world at large, it was to say that this building and its construction is decidedly countercultural.
The construction of a college chapel in particular is a public declaration that faith and reason are mutually reinforcing. And in 2019, the construction of a chapel is a bold act of leadership at a crucial time in our nation's history.
According to campus newspaper The Collegian, Christ Chapel recently began holding daily sacred silent hours between 6:30 to 9 a.m. and 4:30 to 10:15 p.m. Student prayer and worship services also began recently. The music department will also use the chapel. Hours are still limited due to continuing work to complete the project, but that won't take much longer. In the meantime, students, faculty, and staff alike are learning what having a chapel on campus truly means to everyday college life. Josh Coletta, HTV1 News, Hillsdale.